Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome back to the NOFO Live podcast, where I, Sunitha, along with my co-host Tracy, we hop on every Friday and talk about all things North Fork. Spring is definitely here. The temperatures are warmer. And what's that saying? April showers bring May flowers, which there are a lot of flowers, but there's also a lot of May showers. So I don't know what that brings. I don't know if that brings a dry summer, a warmer summer. I have no idea, but it's warm, but it's gray, and it's kind of not gloomy, but I think there's on and off a whole bunch of rain been going on. So dealing with that weather. But because it's warm and because it's the happy season on the North Fork, so many different restaurants are back open again. Couple of art exhibits that I want to talk about. If you've noticed, we are going to be hanging art on our backdrop on a rotating basis, and so far we have had for the last few episodes Verona's art hanging behind me. Our friend Verona from 𝗵𝗡 Studios, she is having an art exhibit and her works exhibited at RGNY and Southhold Social. I believe there's an opening perhaps tonight, but it's going to be ongoing, so definitely stop in and visit her. So talented. Speaking of art, also our friend Kara, who owns the North Fork Art Collective Gallery in Greenport, has an opening tonight, and she tends to showcase several different artists. I know she just wrapped up a show earlier, a couple of months ago, showcasing 100 different artists. This particular show, again, I believe the opening is this weekend. It could be tonight. We'll post links to both of them. Is a show about being different or showcasing artists and how they're different. I'm going to butcher the whole thing, but I know I saw several posts and I chatted with her about the curation, and it looks like it's going to be a fun show. So lots of things to do. And of course, our friend Mary at William Reese Gallery, I think she just had, it's Women's Month, March, I guess, or May, what am I saying, March. But she just had an exhibit, and I think it's all month long, also about women artists, I believe. So lots to do on the North Fork. And of course, speaking of doing, we are so excited because we have our Bollywood show coming up. I see that Chef Nathan is trying to join us. I don't see Tracy yet. Perhaps she's so busy making the decor because she has been so excited about all the prep work and behind the scenes. Sometimes I think that behind the scenes of throwing a party can be I know it's true for Tracy and I, because we are certainly been having a lot of fun. Good morning. How are you?
Hi. Sorry, I couldn't tell if it was me on the bus or Nick.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
I figure you're neck deep in Bollywood decor. I was just starting to say sometimes the behind the scenes prep is equally as fun as the actual event, right?
Yes, it is.
Good morning, Chef. How are you?
Good morning. How are we doing, ladies?
I'm good. Speaking of behind the scenes, before we jump all into Bollywood, we had so much fun at the tasting, and again, behind the
Same.
scenes, visiting with you at your workplace. It was so much fun. So much fun.
It was so much
Thank
fun.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into the beginning, right? Introduce who you are and how you got into this culinary world.
All right. So I'm Chef Nathan Hitchcock. I've been cooking since I was about 14. I'm 29 now. I came from Binghamton, New York. So grew up a little more on the poor side of things, not really into all this fancy food back then. And then I started cooking when I was 14. My brother worked at an Irish bar, and he asked me to come wash dishes, and I just loved the atmosphere in the kitchen. And I started cooking there a couple years later after I washed dishes for a couple years. And then I went to culinary school in Delhi, New York when I was, 18. Graduated from there about 8 years ago, I think now. And then I found my now wife, Gabriella. She works at 𝗵𝗡 Kitchen. She got me into Norfolk Table. I got a job there with Stephan and Claudia. Worked there for, I don't know, 3-4 years till Stephan left, and then I took over as his executive sous chef at the Halyard 7 years ago. and then I took over as executive chef about 4 years ago.
Wow.
Okay, let me go. I want to go back to the washing dishes part.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how washing dishes and doing such hard work in a restaurant inspires you to then do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Good
you
question.
really just kind of fall in love with the atmosphere and everything. Like, it was always fun. I really always like to eat, so anytime you're in a kitchen, you always can eat anytime you want, which is really something that I loved. And I always like trying something new. It was always really fun for me. And then once I got to cook, you get to try new things, and then all kinds of things like that open up.
Okay, I have a weird question. You said anytime you're at a restaurant, you can eat when you want, which is a great
Yeah,
part. So my question
for
is,
sure.
I mean, I love food and I could eat anytime. My question is, even if I worked at an Indian restaurant, eventually, do you get bored of seeing the same menu all the time? And my question is, do you create different things for the staff that aren't on the menu so then they get to eat something different all the time?
So, yes and no. I mean, the way we run our kitchens, we change our menu about 4 to 5 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always doing something new. I hate to do the same thing over and over and over. Obviously, you have those fan favorites that you're always going to bring back. Like our 𝗵𝗶𝘀 𝗙𝗏 that everybody loves. You always bring that back once in a while. Hummus, we come in and out every season. You have those staples, but then you're always trying to do something new. So there's always something new to eat, always something new to play around with, especially because we have all these banquets and parties like your Bollywood night. There's always something new to cook, new to experiment with, new to find.
And how do you decide when to change it up and what you're going to change it to and what you're going to keep?
Well, a lot of it's based on seasonality. So we try to cook as seasonal as possible, so it's more up to Mother Nature than it is to me. What's growing around, what's beautiful around. We'll go to the farms, we'll talk to the farmers, see what's coming up. And then we have those product lists that we know we're going to have available. And then we kind of just build off of those. Like, oh, he's got this really nice asparagus. Let's do something cool with that.
Very cool.
Let's talk a little bit about your experience at North Fork Table. I mean, for those that have been around long enough, remember the old North Fork Table Inn, with Claudia. So tell us what that was like, because you threw out your age, so you're pretty young,
Yeah,
which
so
means
I
you were
was
younger when you were working there.
21 when I started there.
Wow.
No, 20. I wasn't even 21. 20
Wow.
when I started there.
Wow.
I wasn't even drinking age yet.
Went right to the top.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
bright-eyed,
Yeah.
not sure what I'm doing in life kind of person that showed up there.
It was definitely a challenge. I mean, I was definitely a little cocky coming out of culinary school, one of the top of my class, which was really nice. I did a lot of the competitions and stuff along those lines in school. And I was the teacher's assistant to the competition class in my second year. They wanted me
So you walked in armed with, okay, I got this.
Yes. I walked in with armed when I got that, and then I walked in not knowing what I was walking into. Had the tasting menu the day before I staged. Stage was like a trial.
Okay.
And I got to like the second course, and I was like, oh, I am in over my head. But I kind of just went for it, and then the stage went great. We tried a lot of different things. He put me right on fish station right from the beginning. So definitely threw me right into the fire, but it was definitely something that I needed.
Literally.
Broke me down. Yeah, exactly. Broke me down, broke that confidence down a little bit to build me back up, which was really nice. He was a great mentor for 5-6 years, actually. And then he told me, actually, he's like, when can you start? I was like, I can go get my 2-week notice because I was just working at a bar back home after school just to try to figure something out, save enough money to figure out what I was going to do. And he's like, I'm going to Paris in 2 weeks. Can you get here in 2 weeks? I was like, yeah, I'll call him right now. He's like, if you just let me go and put my 2 weeks in right now, I'll be here in 2 weeks.
That's amazing. So you not only got the job, but uprooted yourself. So you had to move, find a place to live, and start at this super high.
My wife's family, then my girlfriend, but my wife's family moved out here. Was out here already, so I moved in with them.
Okay. Oh, so that was going to be my next question. How did you find the North Fork?
Yeah, so my wife, Gabriella, works at Love Lane Kitchen. And I guess Stephan was just in for dinner one day, or lunch. I think it was lunch, not dinner. But either way. And she got his information, and then I connected with him. And it just happened like that.
That's what we love about the North Fork, right? You never know when you're going to make a connection.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a real small town vibe.
So you moved here, you started cooking. Now, when people come out of culinary school, do they tend to pick a specialty? Like obviously Claudia is dessert and that's her
Yeah.
thing. So when you walk out of culinary school, do you have a plan or does
I
everybody
mean,
figure it out as they go along?
it's a little bit of both. Everybody has a little bit of a plan, but it always changes. You know, the world's always evolving. You always find something new. You find something you love, and then you just go with it. Just keep running with it.
So when when you moved here and started working in your mind, was that a permanent move or you were just gonna figure it out and then see where it leads you?
Well, back then it was honestly more temporary. I knew we wanted to be together, but Long Island was always very expensive, so we never knew if we were going to stay here, not here, exactly. You know, but we never knew if we'd stay here, go somewhere else. But it was just like, you know, we'll try this out for a couple of years, figure it out. I love the place, so. And then you fell in love with the area and everything, and now I own our own house, or we own our own house and everything.
I know. I always say that it's like every once in a while that'll pop into your head of like, especially tax time, and you're like, all right, I should move somewhere else. And then you're like, I don't think I could. I really couldn't. I love it here so much. It's just such a special place.
And there's so many layers of loving the North Fork. It's not one, you know, and it makes it totally worth it. Okay, so you got some experience under your belt at the North Fork Table and Inn, and then you ended up at the Halyard.
Yeah. So Stephan was leaving the North Fork Table and Inn. Claudia did kind of want me to stay for a little while, so I stayed for about a month and a half to help with that transition period and help kind of run the place in between the chefs while they were getting in the new one, training the new chef, that kind of thing. And then I worked Valentine's Day was my last day at North Fork Table, and then I started the next day at the Halyard. Didn't even have a day off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, and chef hours. Let's just talk about that for a minute.
Say that. Yeah.
Or restaurant hours at
being up with us right now.
Well, that also there are no holidays, right? Because that's when people really want to go out and celebrate.
We get Christmas usually at least.
Oh, you do? Okay.
That's our holiday. Yeah.
Okay. But I'm just saying, otherwise, it's like every time everybody thinks of holiday, they think of downtime, and you think of that as your busy season, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's a little opposite, flip-flop to everybody else. So that's obviously always a struggle. But you try to do your best to balance it as much as you can.
So I think, I'm talking about the first time I met you. I think it was at 3-4 years ago, I guess, at the North Fork Food and Wine Festival.
Possibly,
if you had come then, you had made this, I want to say it's a watermelon gazpacho, but I could be wrong.
It could have been, yeah. We've done a couple variants there.
It was delicious. First of all, it looked amazing on the platter because you had them in like little shot glasses in that red. It was amazing. And I know, you know, you had recently just taken over because Stephan moved on to other projects. And so that was my first tasting of you as the chef there, and I was blown away. It was incredible, and I still remember it.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah, the gazpacho is something we usually bring back one shape or form every year. I really love it. I really like soups. I think they're so simple that there's really nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
So it's either great or it's not, you know. So it's something that you can really showcase your talents in. And something like a gazpacho is so easy. I've learned earlier in my career, I tried to do things that are a lot more complicated and out there, you know, these crazy ideas, but really it's just those simple, delicious flavors that people love and really resonate with. And that's really where I try to hone into that area.
As the executive chef, do you come up with a bunch of ideas and have your staff try them when you're changing the menu and then kind of go with that? Or you like, how do you start that process?
It's always, the start of the process always usually goes back to a product list. It's like, these are the things we want to work with this season. And then it's like, okay, we poke around with them. We end up with a ton of different ideas. And then I also lean into my staff as well, because we're all a real young team. My sous chef, George Simone, is 26, 25 now. So we're all real young team. We all kind of group together. We cook a bunch of stuff. We'll taste a bunch of stuff. Sometimes the first time it's perfect. Sometimes it takes 17 tries. Mm-hmm. And then once we have a bunch of different ideas, we'll go to our ownership and they'll come in, they'll taste a couple things. They'll say yes, no to some things, tweak a couple things, and then a nice group effort. It all comes together.
That's great. Well, I certainly know, I mean, we transitioning into Bollywood, I shared when we shared our reel about our tasting, like I have always said I don't like Indian food. And
it's one of those things that's hard.
Yeah, and Sunita has slowly introduced me to it. But I was a little bit nervous about going to the tasting. I was like, oh, what if I don't like everything? And I was blown away. And I feel like obviously Sunita being blown away is one kind of endorsement because she knows what Indian flavors should be like. And mine is a totally different type of endorsement because I went in thinking I'm not going to like anything and I liked everything. And it was amazing.
That's great. Yeah, I tried to hit that middle of the road because obviously some Indian flavors can be very strong. So I tried to like knowing where we're at and knowing the people that I normally cook for and the people that are out on the North Fork, you kind of got to dull some things down, elevate some things where you can, and kind of meet. If you kind of know what it looks like and have an idea of what it looks like, you're going to like it a little bit more just because you think you know what it is, even if it doesn't taste like what you think it's going to taste like.
Right.
Well, that's kind of how I felt about the oysters that you made, right? When you first pulled together the menu after we chatted and you threw a couple of things in there like lobster and oyster, and I was thinking,
Lobster
I
beignet.
wonder how this is
Yeah,
going to taste Indian, right? But
exactly.
then, and when you look at the oysters, they look like, I don't know, oyster Rockefeller or grilled
Exactly.
oysters or whatever, and they look great. But the minute you bit into it and then that cardamom flavor just sort of exploded, and I was like, ooh, you figured out a way to make oysters taste Indian and yet taste like oysters. It was, I mean,
Yeah.
it was perfection. It was
It's kind of
perfection.
bridge that gap in between the North Fork and India. And those actually came out great. But that was one of the examples that sometimes you just put it together the first time and you're like, wow, that really came out better than I thought it would. It was one of those things I was like, oh, I'll probably play around with these. I didn't really have an idea. I was like, oh, let's throw some Indian spices in there. I was like, I really love cardamom. We have some good black cardamom. I was like, all right, let's just throw some of that in with some cheese and some breadcrumbs, see where we're at with the base level there, and then we'll expand on that. And then I had the first bite and I was like, oh, I don't have to expand
No
anywhere. That's great.
expansion necessary.
Well, the thing about Indian food, and I think that's what throws some people off, is there are so many layers of spice. And when I say spice, I guess I should say flavor, right?
Yeah,
Because they'll put cloves, they'll put cardamom, they'll put cinnamon, all in the same thing, and it builds upon it, which is
exactly.
fine if you're used to it, right? But if you're not used to it, like even if we make cauliflower in India, there's so many seasonings that go into it. It almost doesn't matter that it's cauliflower. Like any
Yeah,
ingredient could be put in there because what you're tasting and what you're enjoying is the seasoning, right?
exactly.
But what I loved about what you created, especially when we looked at you made these lobster beignets.
Yeah,
What I loved is as soon as I broke one open, the color,
Yeah.
and I was joking, I thought you purposefully created with our vibe because I know
yeah,
Tracy has this whole orange, red, deep yellow, and the lobster beignets came out deep
yeah,
orangey red, and I was like,
yeah,
wow, chef, you took it all the way.
exactly. And that was just, I thought they were going to be like a nice deep orange just for like the turmeric and the spices I put in, but something with the reaction with the lobster. And I popped the first one open. I was like, oh, wow, that's bright red and beautiful.
Yeah.
It was
So
great.
pretty.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the first time you throw something together, you don't know exactly how it's going to come out. You have like a theory, and then you do it and you're like, okay. Or you're like, oh, that's terrible. But that usually doesn't happen. But sometimes it does, It's all about the creative process.
Well, I see we're getting some comments who are saying they want to try some of these things. And I know that these are not necessarily always on your menu. So I'm just going to do a little plug here, shameless
Oh,
plug.
I don't know about always. I don't think they're ever on the
Well,
menu. So it is a
I know
one-time
you
thing.
did say there was like one or two things that were on the menu at times, but most of it was created for our
Yeah.
event on May 14th. So if this sounds yummy to you, come to our event on May 14th.
Yeah. For something like the swordfish kebabs, we have that a very similar marinated. I upped the spices in it a little bit, but other than that, that's the piece of swordfish on our swordfish entree. So that would be the closest thing.
Right. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the inspiration for, because when we sat down and came up with this Bollywood with the Bollywood theme, I mean, obviously the food is a major component of pulling that
Of
together. The food and the music,
course.
you know.
Yeah.
So when we sat down, we just gave you a very vague guideline, and obviously you know the audience and the crowd in the
Yeah.
North Fork. So tell us a little bit about your inspiration and your exposure to Indian cooking. I know you mentioned that you sometimes cook it at home.
Yeah, so not too much exposure, but one of the first bases was Stephan went to India and he brought back a bunch of Indian spices and he learned from this household family how to make it like a beautiful curry. So that's where I first learned how to make like a traditional curry, let's say, not like an Americanized curry. So like I knew I wanted to use that and then just knowing the event and what it was and the people there It was like, okay, so it's all Norfolk people, so they're probably not too exposed to Indian food, but I want to expose them to a bunch of things they haven't had. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure most people have had like your few base dishes, you know, but let's give them some stuff that they haven't had before. And it's not really like a sit down dinner, really. So I was like, all right, let's look into like Indian street food. So then I just started perusing the internet for random Indian street food. 98% of it, I had no idea what it was. I was just like, you know,
But
that looks,
in India's
yeah.
defense, there is a lot.
No, there is
There is a lot,
a
and it
ton.
varies a lot. Like, I wouldn't even
Yeah,
know what all of it is.
yeah,
Believe me, there's that much.
yeah, exactly. So I just started perusing around and I picked like, I don't know, 15, 20 things that I was like, these look executable and these look like, you know, fun flavors and things that you could eat while on the move, having a good time at a party. And then went from there and like, he was like, okay, these two are kind of the same. So skip that one, go to this one. This one kind of looks like a hamburger, the potato cake. I can't remember the name of that one. I was like, that'll be great.
This friend of mine, Stacy, who owns a Harvest Inn, she's a chef, and she always says it's not rocket science, right? And she jokingly says that, but I feel like,
No,
not that
it
I'm comparing it to
is
rocket
rocket.
science, it is a science, because here you are, never having made a vada pav, never having eaten it, right?
Yeah,
Don't even know exactly what it's called, but you executed it beautifully. That's
yeah,
what got me, because I grew up eating street food in India. And that reminded me of home. And again, it's not a flavor that necessarily everybody will be like on the first bite delicious. But I will say this, from the response that we've got to Bollywood Night, so many people are obviously familiar with Indian food, but also
yeah,
craving Indian food on
Yeah.
the North Fork. So
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
really
Heard that a
glad
lot.
that you created Indian inspired, but also created Indian, actual what it would taste like with the green chutney and the date chutney, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. And I can't wait to get a second taste at it, because we did get nibbles already on our trial run.
Yeah. I actually brought everything home after the tasting for me and my wife, all the extras. So we had a nice tasting afterwards too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, and we actually had a special guest.
That
We
was
had been,
so weird.
Yeah.
I know, it was so unplanned.
So
Our
random.
old co-host, 𝗕𝗓𝗄𝗓, stopped by. She happened to be just talking to
She was
people at the front
staying. No,
desk.
she was
Yeah,
staying at the
yeah,
Soundview
she was
that
talking
day.
to people at the front desk, and we're like, Kelly! And then she came over and joined our tasting, which was just so fun. It was
Well, and
such a fun tasting.
similar to you, limited exposure to Indian food, wasn't sure how she would. And in fact, she had a friend with her who happens to be a chef from the city. So it was
Hmm.
kind of like so interesting to get a chef's take on the cuisine, because he had more
Yeah.
specific questions. It was such a fun, random meeting, but I'm so good. It was such a fun day. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the menu. I know you said you're making some street food. We're doing sword fish kebabs. We're trying to accommodate a lot of different dietary
Yeah.
needs and restrictions, right?
So that's
So
always a fit factor because there's always those people out there. I mean, I'm supposed to be dairy free as well. I'm lactose intolerant, but it's not that bad, as well as I'm celiac, but still very mild in my case, which is really nice for me because I still could taste things. I don't have to completely avoid it. But we always want to be conscious to those people that have those food allergies. We always want to make sure that there's something for them to eat. The good news with Indian, it is a lot easier with the Indian cuisine because they don't use too much gluten, at least from my limited research. They don't use too much gluten or too much dairy, which is really nice. So it's all really about the spices. So it was a lot easier. So honestly, I typed the menu up for yesterday. I was like, the majority of it's gluten-free, dairy-free.
That's
which is
great.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
without
great.
even, but I just
Well,
kind of naturally cook that way because that's the way I cook for myself at home. So when I'm just being creative naturally, that's usually the way I gravitate towards. I mean, obviously I'm a chef, so I grab the butter all the time, but like other than that,
well, and it's interesting because we've done this party a couple of years now, and I've never made signs for the food.
yeah,
But this year where you just so many people are unfamiliar with it, so we're making
yeah,
signs for each station so that people know what they're getting into and what it is, because again, it looks like things you've never seen before.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but as a foodie who likes to enjoy food, I almost sometimes feel like I hang on to the menu when I order food because as I taste it, I kind of want to go back to the ingredients and go, "Ooh, what's in here?" You
Yeah.
know. So I think it's more for that as well. It's kind of a feast for the eyes and a feast for the senses, and then to
yeah,
be able to compare and say, "Ooh, now I taste that." You know.
yeah, and then it's
And
easier to
Tracy,
remember.
I'm
And
glad
it's,
you brought up the last couple of years because this is not the first time that you're making food for our NOFO Live party. This is actually the third year
yeah,
that you're cooking, and I will say both past years, starting especially with the very first year that we did the event at the Halyard, the feedback for the food has always been phenomenal.
thank you.
So
Yeah,
we are so looking forward to this um, themed food this year.
Well, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better. You know, you in the past have like kind of come out, we take a picture together and, you know, and then you go back in. And this process of, you know, having the tasting and developing the menu together, we've gotten to know a little bit more about you and now, you know, really feels collaborative.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really nice this year. I love it.
Yeah. Well, let's kick off into our NOFO Live 5. If you were going to take us out for a meal, not at your restaurant, where would you take us?
Well, so I would love to say my house, but
Okay.
you know,
Oh,
I'll be out.
Hey,
we'll take that. We'll
Okay,
take
we
that.
like
We'll
that.
take
perfect. All
that.
right. I didn't know if that was like a cheat code. You know.
If your
No, no,
wife
no. I think
allows,
it's
if
great.
your wife
Yeah,
allows
no.
it, we're
Oh,
there.
I'm sure she would love it. Yeah, she would join us.
And what would
Well,
you cook?
her.
What would you
I
cook? That's the important part.
mean, what time of year is it? Give me a time of year
Let's
at
do
least.
it in summer.
Oh, perfect. So summertime, we'll probably start with like some oysters, some raw bar, something along those vibes, and then we'll do it all outside right on the barbecue. So we'll probably throw some steaks on or something, whatever local vegetables. We'll stop at a couple farm stands. Probably go to KK's, Deep Roots. Those are my two favorite. I know they're a little far from me, but all the way out there. And definitely get some tomatoes because
Yeah.
the tomatoes out here are the best I've ever had.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of salt and the tomatoes, and that's
Yep.
it. Like the
Yep.
ones you get
Exactly.
on the stands here, you don't even need anything much.
Exactly.
Darn. I think from now on, Tracy will change the question and ask people if you were cooking for us at home, what would
What
the
would you
menu
make
be?
us?
Because this is like mouth-wateringly delicious. That's
Just
awesome.
nice and
That's awesome.
simple, and then we could sit on the patio and hang out, and enjoy the weather.
I like it.
Perfect. So, what do you catch from your patio, sunrise or sunset, depending on where you're
Um,
oriented?
more of a sunrise. The sunset, we have a lot of trees in our backyard, so you don't really see too much of the sunset, but it does light up the sky. You know, gets all
But
beautiful and
Yeah.
with
everything.
your work schedule, do you actually get a moment to catch any, or is that like
Well,
your?
actually, we catch it at work a lot of the
Yeah.
times.
Oh yes.
Whenever there's a really good one, can't tell everybody else. I know we're live, so they'll probably hear it anyways. But well, sometimes I'll pull the whole kitchen out and we'll just go look at the sunset for like 2 minutes and then get back to work.
I love that though. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, life is about those little moments and not, you know, we can't work all the time.
yeah,
So that 2 minutes to watch the sun drop below the horizon
yeah.
is
And
allowable.
we get
Yeah.
such beautiful sunsets there at the
And
Halyard. So
the view from the Halyard is unbeatable.
yeah,
So
you can't go
I
wrong.
think it's yeah, I think it's amazing because most of the time in the kitchen you have your head down, you're cooking and you're cooking and you're cooking. I think that beautiful 2 minutes can carry you through a
Yeah,
long
and
time.
you could tell how good the sunset is right from the hotline.
Oh,
You can just tell because
wow. Yeah.
you can't see the sunset, but you can see the reflection
Yeah.
in the dining room. Just the way this dining room will light up, just through that little tiny window, you could tell if it's a really good one.
Oh, that's great. I love that. I love that.
Okay. Cocktail, mocktail, brewery, vineyard, what might we find you enjoying?
So I'll normally go to Bricks and Rye in
Okay.
Greenport. Evan's great. He'll make me whatever I want. Honestly, usually I just let him make whatever. I usually just give him a spirit. But my favorite one on their list is the Northside Collins. You can't go
Wait,
wrong with that.
what is it
The,
called?
the Northside Collins.
Northside
It's a
Collins. Okay.
yeah.
Tracy, we can't let
I
this
know.
next year go
I
by without
know.
having bricks and dry on. Like
I know. It's every time. I know.
we need to reach out to Evan because it comes up,
I
often,
know.
I'm
and then we're
sure.
always reminded that we need to walk in there, and then life gets busy, but we need to make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I need a no for life cocktail in there or mocktail,
Yeah.
whatever.
and then get their pizza upstairs from
Of course.
1943.
Right.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it's a great pairing. And although pro tip, it's getting summer, getting busy, so perhaps call it in rather than
Yeah.
because I know, Tracy and you and
Oh,
I
I
walked in
know.
there thinking we're just gonna, and it was like a 45-minute to an hour wait, and we were like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That'll
yeah,
happen. Yeah.
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 So you mentioned KKs and you mentioned Deep Roots. When you go there to cook at home, what do you generally like to get at each of those places?
It really depends on the season and what they have. I go there and whatever's best available.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people, unlike me, because I'm a chef, obviously, a lot of people go there with a plan. Most of the time, I go there without the plan before I go to the supermarket. You know, I'll go there, see what they have, and then I'll get the supporting rolls from whatever, like some rice or something, or protein from the supermarket that they didn't have.
Did you just say the supporting roles?
Yeah, well, I mean,
that.
when you have the beautiful vegetables out here, they really are the ones that shine.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
He's putting on this is art,
Yes,
Tracy.
no, it's
His
a
food is
production.
art. He's
Yeah,
got the star.
yeah,
He's got the supporting
yeah,
role.
I know
yes.
my
The
wife kind of
Oscar
hates when I go to the
goes
store sometimes because like I'll go to the store and I have no plan what I'm making for dinner. I just grab stuff. She's like, "How do you do this?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just making some food. Make it taste good. That's all we're doing."
Well,
quite a talent.
when we talk about menu, we always talk about what it's going to be, but the salad is always, and I think it's also even on the restaurant sometimes called like KK's farm salad. Like you'll go
Yeah,
there, whatever he's growing, him and Ira and Gordon are growing. That's what will go in the salad that day. And I remember a moment, like there's so many things I remember about the two, what stuck out in my head for the two events that we've had already at the Halyard. But for the first one was really Ira walking in
yeah,
I know.
with loose
Like a bag of
greens, like
salad.
in his hand. Yes. And then
yeah.
handing them to you. And then you went in the back and whipped it
The
together and
salad.
out came the salad. And I was like, wow, this is true farm to table living.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I bought the hatchback Honda just so I could fill it with vegetables every summer. So I didn't have enough room in my old car. So I put my seats down. You know, I'll go usually because like leaving my house, I'll go to Wickham's Fruit Farm, and then I'll go to Wisnowski's, and then Deep Roots, and then Gordon's or KK's,
That's
and then
amazing.
my trunk will be my whole car will be full. Sometimes even the front seats.
That's
I'll have
like
stuff on my
my
lap.
golden triangle. Like that's where I drive. The only one that I would prefer, if they're listening, if they want to move closer to me, is Latham's, because I love that stand, but I never make it that
Make
far.
it that
So
far.
if they would move somewhere in this row, it would be so perfect for me.
I love it.
Well, we are so excited for the party. And Stephen Ness just asked, are there any tickets left for Bollywood? Yes,
Just
this
a
weekend
few.
there's just a few. So this weekend is the last chance to grab your ticket. You can find them in the link on the NOFO Live Instagram or on our website, or message us and we'll send it to you. But we're so excited. And Nathan, I just can't wait to have the party and
Same. It's going to be great.
hang out with you and do everything. So thank you so much for everything.
No, thank
It's been such a wonderful
you.
experience.
It's been great. It's only going to get better from here. Don't worry.
Well,
Yeah.
well, assuming this goes well, I'm sure it will. But even if it doesn't, I would encourage you or implore you to consider adding some Indian cuisine to the seasonal menu, because I know that there are so many people that are, craving that. And
Yeah, I'm
and,
sure
and
some of
other
those
than a
flavors
couple
will
of
always sneak their
pop-ups,
way in.
okay, perfect. Now that you'll sample it on us in the party, perhaps you
the
can,
the NOFO Live lobster beignet. Yes.
yeah, or the no for live vada
Yeah,
pav or
Yeah.
whatever.
I love it.
I like the no for live lobster
Yeah,
beignet.
it'd be
Yeah.
perfect for like the bar menu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yes.
good idea, Tracy.
Well, we're so excited. Thank you so much for all of the flavor that you bring to the North Fork.
Thank
And we're so
you.
happy to have you here. And we're glad you chose to stay.
Same too.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will see you Wednesday for the Bollywood night. See you then. Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.